Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Dallas Live, and I am your host, Dr. RC. The number to call is 469-307-1642. We have James Goi, who has written the best-selling non-fiction book, How to Attract Money Using Mind Power. This book is available at Amazon.com and various bookstores. James, welcome back to our second part.
Thank
All
you.
right, yes. We were looking at the second part of your book as well, the money mindset, money goals, and think and results. Can we go over these three chapters and tell our audience exactly how you want them to think through these ideas?
Certainly. Our money mindset is basically how we think and feel about money. And that is really has to do with money in general. In other words, not just our own finances, but it's how we think and feel about taxes, the economy, big businesses, our neighbors, how they earn their money, how they spend their money. And we want our money mindsets to be as positive as possible. So we want our thoughts that we have and feelings about money in any way, shape, or form to be positive or at least neutral. Because, we can find fault with government spending or the economy or, just things that are unfair in corporate life or whatever. But we do so at the cost of weakening our money mindset because positivity has a very strong attractive power. And those things that we are positive about and think about will be drawn to us. But if we have negative feelings, then we're driving them away. So, and there's a great quote in here from Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, which was published in 1937. And he wrote that fortunes gravitate to men whose minds have been prepared to attract them, just as surely as water gravitates to the ocean. So by being positive with our money mindsets, by not having our money mindsets, by not having regrets or guilt, resentments. I teach people, we've got some exercises in the book to help you pull up and get rid of some of that stuff. To become positive or neutral in all of your thoughts about money will go a long way in raising the vibratory rate or the vibration, the frequency of your money mindset. And now we can attract a lot of money into our lives without money goals, but money goals are very a powerful technique. And many people, many teachers theorize on why, and, opinions might differ. But we know that when we write things down, it becomes a lot more powerful. I remember in a workshop that I was involved in my early 20s, they had us write down all these things that we wanted to happen in a notebook. And so after this thing, it was a big elaborate thing, a full weekend and a couple of weeks to get through the whole thing. But anyway, about a year later, I found that notebook, and almost everything in the notebook had come true without me
You
even
know,
thinking about it any longer. I had
yes.
quit smoking, I had lost weight, I was in better shape, all these things, some things that were real big happened yet, but so much of it was in the notebook just from writing it down and not even thinking about it again. So when we write money goals, we are being specific, and the universe and our subconscious minds love specificity. They like to know exactly what it is we want because then it's like focusing a laser. We're focusing our mind power on a specific thing and not just something general. Oh, I'd like to have more money. That's not, specific enough. And next chapter, I think it was that you mentioned, think and results. And this is really a staple. I mean, if people can understand and really get that the thoughts they're thinking and the resultant images and feelings that arise due to those thoughts are actually all. So we want to teach people to think about the end results that they want, not to think about the things that they fear, to think about the things that they don't want to happen, because that, remember, this is the creative process. We think thoughts, we have images, we have feelings. This goes into the subconscious mind, and those are the things the subconscious and the universe work at bringing us. And it doesn't care. The subconscious mind doesn't care if it's positive or negative, if it's good for us or not good for us, if it's bringing us money or making us less, financially viable, it's neutral. And so if we are thinking negatively and fearful, and we're afraid we're going to lose our job or be financially destitute or whatever, that is what we're in the process of creating. So we always want to think about the end results that we're trying to create, and that will give us the positive feelings associated with those things that will naturally arise. And when we're thinking about those things, we'll be having those types of images in our minds. And so it's
So, yeah,
opposite of the way
one
most people think.
one question. I want to relate something that I have done over the years. People ask me the same question. How you are able to get everything, so many things done in your life. And intuitively I believe I followed your instructions. I Every morning I get up, I write down about 15 or 16 different things that I have to do. Now when I write this down, I noticed a heavy burden is taken off my chest. Okay, now everything is right there on the paper. Now, if I don't write it down, I don't know where to start. It's just too much chaos in my life. So once I wrote it down, most of the things, about 80% of them, I'm able to finish on that particular day. And then when I come back and look at those lists about a week or later, I notice that I have finished all of them. Okay,
Right.
and
And
I write this down
yeah,
every day.
right. And I do that too. I keep a list every day of the things that I need to accomplish because it's just something very powerful about it. We get it out of our heads, we get it on paper. It has a physical, tangible, viewable aspect to it now. And as you've found, it just really works. There's something about it
I
which
absolutely
makes
agree
those
with that.
things
It
happen.
it has worked for me, and I also looked at a lot of other things. I have not read your book, but this idea, writing it down was primarily, I started it as a tool to not to forget things that I am supposed to do. But I also realized the great advantage of this list helping me throughout the days, weeks, and months. So I totally agree with what you wrote in your book. All right, go ahead. Now the next part is money mindset. We talked about money goals. Now, money goals, what is the goal that they have to set? I think it has to be realistic, isn't it?
Oh, say that again
The
about the
money
goal?
goals, the money goals must be realistic.
Well, that's what people think, but realistic is really a um, um, relative term. And I encourage people to think big. I mean, there was one time, like you said earlier, that, and when I used the example about the lottery, when we actually are using these principles, we don't really try to um, figure out how we got our money. We just try to create the money and leave all the ways and means open. But there was one time, many years ago, even before when I was 50,000 in debt, when the household was $10,000 in debt, and I used one specific technique, which was affirmation, and I came up with an affirmation: all of my credit cards are completely paid off. Now, I was getting deeper in debt each month. I was making very little money riding my bicycle to work every day. I was borrowing from the credit cards to pay the bills that my income couldn't pay. Plus, I was borrowing from the credit cards to pay the credit card bills because I had to pay credit card bills every month. And I was always trying to shift the cards around to the lowest rates. They had special rates for a month or two.
Right.
And I was always jockeying my musical chairs with my debt. Well, I came up with that affirmation, and there was no way that it seemed reasonable. I mean, someone would say, well, look how long it took you to get in this debt, and look how little money you make, and look how you're going in deeper every month, and you're even using the cards to pay the debt. How can you sit here and say all of your credit cards are completely paid off? It's not rational. Well, I did that affirmation every day, in the morning when I woke up, at night, riding my bicycle to work, whenever I thought about it, on and off. And about 4 to 6 weeks later, someone came into my life that I didn't know very well, and I hadn't seen this person for a number of years, and I actually knew the person through someone else. And so I had only, physically seen the person once or twice in my life. And they had just come into a whole bunch of money, and I was talking about my situation, and this person wrote me a check as a gift for $10,000. And this was just 4 to 6 weeks, like a month to a month and a half after I started doing my affirmation. so it's true that we have to work and do our part a lot of times to bring to fruition what it is we're using mind power for. But the universe can actually orchestrate things that are completely outside of our control, and this is one example of that. And so
Yes.
people would say that wasn't realistic to think that I could be out of that credit card debt very quickly. But I tell people what's realistic is what you can actually believe. And if I can give you one example, now, when I do lectures and stuff to groups, and I sometimes ask this question. Well, I've gotten in the habit of doing it now, and I say, how many people? And remember, these are not just people off the street. These are people who go to metaphysical, lectures and who study this kind of thing. So that's what I got a room full of those kind of people. And I say, how many people in this room think that you can be a multi-millionaire, have 50 million or $100 million just like a month from now? How many people in this room think that's possible? And only like 1 or 2% of the people will raise their hands. And so I was surprised by that right from the beginning, because these are supposed to be people who know the power of the mind. That's why they're at my lecture. And then, so 1 or 2% raise their hands that they believe that they can be multi-millionaires in just, say a few weeks, a month from now or whatever. And
I
then
see.
I ask another question, and I say, how many people in here buy lottery tickets? And half of the hands, or 60% of the hands, go up. And I thought, it was the strangest thing. And I told people, I said, here you are, you understand mind power, you're at a lecture about it, you study this stuff, and you buy lottery tickets. And you know that people win tens of millions and hundreds of millions of dollars in the lottery all the time. People are always winning 50 million, 200 million, 300 million and up. And you buy the tickets and you understand mind power. And yet when I ask you if you, in your furthest reaches of your mind, could think that you could win, that you could have hundreds of millions of dollars a month or so from now, you say no. You don't see any way it's at all possible. And so what I want to tell people is, and I'm just using the example of the lottery ticket, the money can come from anyway, but if I buy lottery tickets, then it is reasonable for me to think that I could come into a windfall of hundreds of millions of dollars, because people who buy those tickets do. And so what's reasonable is what the person can believe and conceive. But I'll tell you, when I did do that in these lectures, all the light bulbs, you could see light bulbs almost on top of everybody's head. They're like, how could I be so silly? How could I say I couldn't figure out any way in the world I could ever have $100 million a month from now, when here I am buying lottery tickets? And I know that it is, in theory, possible, because people do win, and that's why I'm buying the tickets.
But
So,
I would say that you are not promoting people buy a lottery ticket, because that is the expectancy belief that they will get the money through lottery ticket. I mean,
well, not
does that
actually.
make, yeah.
Here's the way I look at it, and let me tell you that I do buy lottery tickets. And here's the reason. It's not because my expectancy or belief is that the money has to come from the lottery, or even that it will come from the lottery, but it's just one more possible way that it could come to me. It's very simple to do. It's very inexpensive. And I'm not telling people to buy tickets or not buy tickets to play the lottery or not. It's completely up to them. But a lot of people do, obviously. But for me, it's extremely inexpensive, but it keeps my mind tuned to the possibility and to the knowing that everything could change in a heartbeat. I could wake up and look, and that ticket could be there. And I told you about, I don't know if I told you, but when I was $50,000 in credit card debt, and I quit my job to work on the book, and 2 six-figure windfalls came in within a 30-day period. I mean, within a 3-month period. There was 2 six-figure windfalls from $50,000 in credit card debt. I mean, it's just, nobody would have thought that was possible. But
Wow.
I knew that things like that were possible, even though most people would say that's unreasonable. That's not reasonable. That's not possible. You're thinking too big. You should be more responsible. And I say no. I tend to promote thinking to the larger degree and to be more open and to think big, to
Okay.
really think
All
big.
right.
Donald
We have
Trump.
to take a
Donald.
break.
Okay.
All right, James. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Dallas Live, and I am your host, Dr. RC, and you are listening to also Mr. James Goi, who has written a best-selling book, How to Attract Money Using Mind Power. And we will be right back.